what are some of the worst case scenarios that AI could cause to the job market?
Yeah, so I think the hurt that happens immediately is just the loss of jobs, the freezing of new roles, the changing in the skills that employment is looking for.
Jeff Bezos, again, another billionaire tech mogul, they want to save money. They're all about increasing profits. And it seems like they will do it at any means necessary. Is there truly a way for AI and robotics to benefit everyday workers and not just the 1%?
A W-2 job is not the same level of security that you thought it was going to be, right? We were definitely, if you're a millennial, you definitely have grown up in a generation where you don't work at one job for 30 years and then that's it.
We're stepping high, we're chasing dreams. Selena Hill, setting the scene. Life's a story, let's unfold. Sharing wisdom, tales untold.
Hey fam, welcome to Over the Hill, the podcast that helps you ascend to new heights in relationships, success, and finance, and equips you to build the life you deserve. I'm your sister in purpose, Selena Hill, and today I'm talking all things AI because the AI revolution is here. But did you know AI could widen the racial wealth gap by $43 billion annually by 2045? Job cuts in January surged to their highest since 2009, partly due to AI related layoffs, which are projected to rise significantly, affecting over 500,000 roles. My guest today knows all about AI and how to prepare for the inevitable future upon us. After being laid off in 2023 from his role as entertainment director at Anheuser-Busch, the world's largest brewing company, Monk Inyang launched First Street Partnerships to tackle this exact problem. Through his org, he's partnered with Kevin Hart's Coromino Fund, Harlem Fashion Row, Morgan State University, and the New Jersey Institute of Technology to train entrepreneurs and students in practical AI skills that prepare them for economic opportunity. Monk Inyang is here with me in studio today to discuss the disproportionate economic impact of AI on Black workers and the training infrastructure he's built to tackle this issue. Thank you so much for joining me today, Monk.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate being here.
So I saw a post on LinkedIn that you shared that predicted AI will shift 12 million jobs by 2030. That's in 4 years. What type of shifts can we expect?
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest areas that you would expect to see it is in areas that can easily be automated, such as customer support. If you provided, counseling or consulting areas may be affected. But areas where you can bring AI to make some of this decision making, maybe if it was data entry, those types of jobs are affected very quickly. But it's also happening the same with white collar work. So whether you were in marketing or whether you were working for brands or working for corporations, a lot of those things are being affected by AI incredibly fast as well. So even if that's not currently going on in the company, they're making decisions on who they've hire, the skills that they're looking for based on what they're expecting AI to do in the near future.
Yeah, I saw that research finds that AI could replace workers largely in office space, clerical work, management, and in business, finance, math, architecture, and engineering. And that's just within the next few years. But I feel like, AI has definitely become inescapable. From Chat GPT to Claude to AI generated videos that now flood our social feeds. It's almost like we officially enter the matrix. And I thought, although a lot of people, a lot of us, myself included, embrace AI, experts warn that advanced technology could have catastrophic effects on workers, particularly those who are Black and brown. And I know that's where your work and your organization comes into play. Before we dig deep into that, what are some of the worst case scenarios that AI could cause to the job market?
Yeah, so I think the hurt that happens immediately is just the loss of jobs, the freezing of new roles, the changing in the skills that employment is looking for, and rarely is it done in a way that is a bulletin board to everyone. Hey, this is what we're focusing on, and we're not focusing on that. You're hearing it in bits and pieces through social media, through anecdotally, people kind of telling you, "Hey, I've been on the market for a year and a half. I can't figure out what's going on. AI is, scraping our resumes, and you're not even able to have those conversations." And all of those things affect people in real time, right? So every month that you're unemployed has a direct effect, obviously, on what you're able to do in your life. So not only do you have that, but on the other end, when you are working, or let's say you are trying to run a business, the difference between what you're able to do and what your counterpart is able to do, who is regularly using AI to kind of enhance the work that they currently do, is leaps and bounds. You're not going to be able to compete, put yourself in a position to get that performance review or to have your business survive the ups and downs that happen if you're not taking advantage of the technology.
And, I'm glad that you brought those different scenarios up. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, based here in New York, she actually said that AI was responsible for over 54,000 layoffs just last year in 2025, right? So we know that, when it comes to layoff, it's affecting industries, it's affecting communities, it's affecting families. When you think of the scary parts of AI, right? Like, because we need to talk about that, right? But I think those fears and concerns are real, right? It's not just the layoffs, but we've seen like the deep fakes of
Mhm,
pictures
mhm,
of women and children being sexually exploited. A lot of folks are also concerned about online privacy, mass government surveillance. We see what happened with Anthropic and, the back and forth they had with the federal government. So there's a lot to really unpack. That said, Elon Musk himself said, and I quote, AI and robots will replace all jobs. Working will be optional. Meanwhile, Bill Gates said, he's also invested billions of dollars into AI, by the way. He said, and I quote, humans won't be needed for most things. My question for you is how can workers realistically prepare mentally and financially for the collapse of the economy as we know it today?
So it's interesting, and I push back on that a little bit in a couple different ways. One is for those who have billions of dollars invested in AI, it is to their financial advantage to give the impression that all is lost already. You have already been defeated. Comply in advance. It is to their benefit to make it seem that things will be fine. The powers that be will take care of you. You won't have to work. Everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. Just let's just keep moving forward. At the same time, things will absolutely change. Things will absolutely, be affected in the work that you do. And I think that there is a medium in between those things. The way that you work, the places where, if you had a side hustle or if you had ideas that were really great, but you wouldn't go through the process of starting a business because there were so many other barriers in place, you can probably put that into motion now because of AI. It'll be harder to do other things where normally a video was enough proof that that thing happened. Now that's not going to be enough. The deep fakes are at a level where that opens up a ton of different things where you're just worried about the fact that, like, hey, that video may or may not mean what we thought it was. And how do we prepare people for those things? I mean, people are getting scammed all the time now without AI, right? The amount of phone calls and text messages and all of that. So that's a real danger. And as a community, it is going to take a lot of effort to keep our knowledge and the knowledge of our loved ones kind of like, hey, this is what it's looking like right now, and this is how you protect yourself. And then I think another one that is longer run and has bigger consequences when you don't realize that it's been going on is that because AI makes things so simple seeming and so easy to accomplish, it really can very easily remove your willingness to learn new things. You kind of just shop out all your thinking and critical ideas to AI. It is so incredibly easy. And so for the generation that's in school now and the people who are coming up, where you're trying to build skill sets and experiences and all of those things, trying to see how you socialize and all of that in a world that's becoming more antisocial, more tech driven, it's much more difficult to kind of keep that in mind and get good at those things.
To your point, Monk, there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to AI, but I want to touch on your optimism, right? You said that you push back against what the billionaire tech moguls are saying. They're basically saying, opt out now, be prepared for universal basic income because you not only you won't have a job, you won't have a place to contribute in society, which
Mhm.
is very, very scary. And
Right.
you're saying you don't necessarily think it's going to be that polarizing.
Mhm.
And it's why is that?
It can't be that. It can't be that. I think one, I have conversations with people in the real world all the time, and obviously, I'm not the sample size of everything that's going on in America, but you would be surprised. And the first thing kind of bring up is what you hear online, what's happening in social media, the way the conversation is being had. You would think everyone is making their third or fourth AI agent. We are deep into everyone needs to know you only know the basics. You didn't know how to use the new Claude, you're already 10 years behind. There's this feeling of just like it's already inevitable. But when you go to these large companies with actual people who are doing actual work, they are in the very beginning. What is the website? What could we possibly do with it? We tried this one thing, it didn't work. Does it work with, helping us with our memos? So there's that disconnect that's there that is so stark, you would be surprised. And so if you imagine that that's happening there, then when we kind of extrapolate that to everything, then yeah, that's going to happen. There's a conversation that happens online and then what actually happens in real life. And what happens in real life is that at the end of the day, people need to interact with other people. So you can have an AI that could diagnose me with cancer perfectly well, even better than a doctor, but I will have this innate thing that's like, but is it wrong? Is it a computer? You kind of need this interaction with human beings. So even if it moves quickly, and it will, and even if it changes a bunch of industries, and it will, there will still be a core of people who have to make those decisions, who have to take the responsibility of the decision made. There are a million things that no one will say, well, AI said to do it. And so that's why we did it. No, you need a person who is going to kind of say, we saw the information and this is the decision we made. This is the context that we added to what AI is doing.
To your point, I saw a study that said that folks who are using AI to either self-diagnose themselves or to understand a medical diagnosis, they actually are missing context. So they're not going up taking the right steps. So AI can tell you one thing, but it is so beneficial for a human, especially a doctor, to sort of walk you through what this means, add context and help you navigate that journey. So I definitely agree with you there. And I know that you are going into these large corporations, companies, organizations and teaching them how to utilize AI. So you're seeing first-handedly that workers are still not adopted to AI and that it's still very new. However, the New York Times reported late last year that 600,000 jobs at Amazon will be reportedly replaced with robots. And by next year, 2027, 40 additional warehouses are expected to implement robotic designs, contributing to Amazon's goal of automating 75% of operations. So when you see things like this, right? And you understand that Jeff Bezos, again, another billionaire tech mogul, they want to save money. They're all about increasing profits. And it seems like they will do it at any means necessary. Is there truly a way for AI and robotics to benefit everyday workers and not just the 1%?
Yeah. So a couple things I'll say. One, when you talk about an Amazon, you know, an Amazon is a company that, if you're in business school, you study Amazon because Amazon is in the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. This is one of the most profitable companies in the entire globe. So when they make moves like this, it makes sense because they are doing things at the more, the most capitalistic way to do what you're trying to do because they're not competing in just being alive. This is Amazon. It will affect a lot of people. Those are real jobs. Those are real families that will be affected. But that's not where the majority of people work. The majority of people don't work at tech companies. You're not working at Apple. You don't work at Netflix or Amazon and these companies that lead the headlines when they do things like that. But where people actually work, it won't move. It tends to not move at that same speed because there's a level of bureaucracy. There's a level. Just think about your job and how long it takes to do things and to get things done and to make different changes. Companies may say AI is the reason we're doing this because the stockholders like to hear that. It sounds like you're making savings and all of those things, but in actuality, it takes time. Now there will be individuals who benefit more than other individuals. And so when we talk about AI, there is the literacy of just understanding, do you know ChatGPT? Do you know how to do deep research? Do you know Claude? And do you know how to do these things? But where it really separates you is the judgment aspect. So the context, the experience that you bring to those things, because that is what people will be able to kind of rate the skill on. If you can make a really great email, everyone can do that with AI. But the difference between the emails, the ones that look really generic or whatever the thing that you're creating, the ones that are generic are the ones that don't have a lot of context. They don't have a lot of the human judgment. We are allowing the value, we're applying the value to it because we're saying that is helpful in this particular case that we're doing. And so that skill is going to be the driving skill. And that'll be the difference between people who are regularly working on different things or have their own projects or creating things, building things, understanding how this technology is working. And then other people who are just kind of in the sea being moved along with whatever is going on right now.
Well, that eased my nerves a little bit, okay? Because I'm reading all these statistics. I'm like, the world coming to an end in 2028. I'm going to be replaced by AI.
Yeah.
Which I still think will probably happen, but I appreciate, hearing from you as an expert in your field and in this space. When I started my intro, I talked about the projection that AI could exacerbate the racial wealth gap by $43 billion. What is driving that projection?
Yeah, so that difference and that's $43 billion annually. That the projection that is coming from McKinsey and Company, and so there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. But one of the big things that I talk about is what we've seen over the last few years is that a W-2 job is not the same level of security that you thought it was going to be. Right? We were definitely, if you're a millennial, you definitely have grown up in a generation where you don't work at one job for 30 years and then that's it. We were used to moving around, but now it's in a different place. It's in a different level of just how much you can have insecurity and have a normal corporate role. So when there is a difference in your opportunity, your ability to continuously make money, those differences are exacerbated when AI comes into things because, like I said before, if you're not able to compete competitively at a corporate level because you don't really understand AI, you don't have the skills that people are looking for, that caps how much you can potentially make, how secure your career really is. And then the same thing there's going to be a ton of money that will move around with this new generation of things that are going on. There will be a lot of people in doing extremely greedy things and doing things to exploit everything that they possibly can. But there will be so many things available that come in the way of roles we would have never thought of, right? The whole industry of everything that comes around the idea of an influencer and social media at the time then when YouTube was being created, at the time that the internet was being created, you could not have even explained or thought about that at that time. But it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there are people who succeed in kind of being the ones who are reaping the benefits of this multi-billion-dollar industry at the lower level where Black influencers who are building their own brands, getting directly to their customers, all of these things, those are the real benefits. And the idea is putting yourself in a position to do that, to work, to be a part of the infrastructure, to be a part of things that maybe we're not thinking about. And the first step is just being a part of the conversation, understanding how to use the tool, understanding how to continue learning as things move a million miles a minute.
Okay, so Monk, what I'm hearing you say is, Selena, don't be so alarmed, maybe, and just pick up the skills that will be much needed in the future, because the future is inevitable,
Mhm.
right? AI is here, it is here to stay. And it's either you're gonna go with the wave or be run over by it. Your background is rooted in Wall Street and corporate America. What inspired you to launch First Street Partnerships after you got laid off rather than just getting another job?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of I wasn't able to get another job in the time period that I was normally able to do so. So what I thought was going to start off as being something that I would kind of do on the side, I think I would do some marketing consulting. I heard about this thing called ChatGPT. I'll check that out as I build out this marketing consulting kind of job and keep looking for my regular work. And what actually happened was, I was talking to a friend at Harlem Fashion Row about
Brandis, shout out
uh,
to Brandis
shout
Daniels,
out to Brandis
Harlem Fashion
Daniels.
Row. I live in Harlem, very familiar. I go to all the shows. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
they're incredible. The whole team is incredible. And it was a conversation I was having with Allison Bennett on the team about actually coming in to speak to designers about marketing consulting and influencer marketing and the work that I was doing there. And we got into a conversation about how I built this company and how I was using ChatGPT. And she was like, "Oh, people are so worried about that." And I was kind of going into this like sermon about not only is it the most powerful thing I've ever seen before, but more people need to know that because the amount of things that I was able to do, I can't imagine if more people in our community knew that and what they'd be able to create because we are we're the creative hub. We are the kind of brilliant minds of the world that usually get held back from showcasing that brilliance. And you now kind of have this tool that allows you to do a little bit of that. And so she kind of spoken to me and said, like, you should probably be focusing on that. And so, did a designer summit at Harlem Fashion Row and spoke about AI, and the conversation that sparked made it clear that this is something I should be really really focusing on, and that's kind of what has brought me to continuing to grow on it and realizing that not only is it an important conversation, but I was realizing that the way people were learning or was learning AI was wrong.
Mm.
It was really focused on the tools, the way we always learn other things. If I'm teaching you Excel, this is how you do a formula. Either you did it right or you did it wrong. You did it wrong. If I want you to teach you Adobe, this is how you use it. But with it, because AI is controlled by natural language, you're talking to it. It's really more about you. How do you strategically think? Are you even putting together good thoughts that AI can then execute on? And so I would give the analogy all the time, like the same person who people would complain about the way you gave them direction before AI came. Guess who AI is not that helpful for? It's not helpful for you. You don't give good direction. You don't know exactly what you want. You don't know what good looks like. You don't have a process of being able to check what you asked for versus what you actually got. You don't continue thinking through, well, if you gave me this, what is another thing that you could do? So that's what we spend a lot of time focusing on. And that goes across anything. We've done it with fashion students at Morgan State. We've done it with professors. We've done it with elementary school teachers. We've done it with bankers. It's the same thought process of improving your critical thinking and then using AI to just execute on the things for you. So
Mm.
you can improve as the controller, the composer of the symphony that's happening. And that makes you dangerous.
So there's a strategy, there's a way to use AI strategically
Mm.
to get the most out of the tools. I read a statistic that said that less than 5% of AI professionals are Black, which is why I'm happy that we have people like you in this space. How is Anchored Intelligence, something else that you created under your organization, helping to provide that AI education to really help Black professionals and just people, like you just said, think critically and use it strategically?
Yeah. So with anchored intelligence, the idea of it is, in the world of artificial intelligence, there's things that are moving all of the time, right? It's the kind of the kite in the air that is flapping, you cannot control. And anchored intelligence is anchoring it to your context, your judgment, your values. And when you do that, you realize you have a lot more control in what's happening. And so you go from prompting, which is just knowing the how to ask a question, to judgment, which is what questions to ask, how to evaluate the answer that you got, and then what to do next. That's a completely different thing. And so when we're working with people and using that framework to help you clarify your ideas up front, interrogate the things that you get, refine the things that you do on the back end, it sounds really, business and super formal, but it applies to everything. We do this and have workshops where we're helping people create your favorite album cover with AI. And what does it look like to adjust images with AI, understanding what you're trying to get, interrogating what you got, refining it. So it works across whatever the application. The same ideas kind of work across that. So it's engaging for people to realize that like everything that you brought to this moment will help you be extremely good at what we're about to do.
Just to take it back to the $43 billion racial wealth gap that AI is expected to exacerbate within the next 20 years. Let's talk about how you are directly addressing that issue and what skills are critical. What skills are you teaching Black folks so that we can sort of close that gap?
Mhm. So, we've had a lot of great partnerships that we've had in the short period of time that we've been doing this, and of course, we're always looking for more and looking for people to have this conversation with. But one that I think about is partnering with Kevin Hart's Core Amino Fund. So this is an organization where $1 for every bottle goes towards this fund, and it allows them to provide $10,000 grants to Black and Latinx businesses around the country. So we partnered with them saying, money is great, but like systematic knowledge was better. So give them the $10,000 and we'll then also provide AI training for the group that is very specific to what it is to be a Black or Latinx entrepreneur in the country. And so what does that look like is when we're coming in and kind of saying, I know you've heard a lot about AI. Let's get into this judgment bag that we're talking about. Let's teach you how to use it and apply it to your business. So that then turns these random things that we can do kind of like parlor tricks into what does it look like to improve your revenue? Like, do you understand how to control your expenses? This is just the random pieces of information that you've had. Let's use that and let's use AI to kind of close that gap of the thing that you weren't really good at, which is analyzing that to figure out ways that you can control your expenses, or figuring out that you need to have a subscription model, or figuring out what your brand voice needs to look like. So that has the actual impact in a business, right? And has an impact in the community. If this business is stronger, more vibrant, can withstand more things, it provides better customer service, provides better services to the community. That allows other things to continue to happen. So it's important, it's incredibly important when we are providing this information to our community because of the ripple effect that it has.
I know we have to wrap up, but I want to just get your take on just the political aspect of AI. We know that Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have introduced legislation to slow down, to pause data centers that are building AI because government regulation has not caught up with the technology. So that's why we have some of the problems that we talked about, the deep fakes, government surveillance, etc. What is your take on that? Do we need to slow down AI with government regulation, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I think that that's incredibly important. I think that there are, two things that are happening here in this revolution towards AI. And so there are on the individual aspect, what do you do to prepare yourself and put yourself in a position to use AI responsibly because it's happening. But institutionally, there are always a need for regulation and to provide the right incentives so that organizations, companies, corporations that do what they do for thousands of years and nothing has changed don't do everything possible to maximize everything that they can possibly get out of the money that's available, the influence that's available, all of those things. It's incredibly important for government to do its very least to at least make sure that the impact is not in one community, that we don't allow data centers to be just a pure net negative to the environment. That when there's regulation and when there's incentive money wise, then all of a sudden we figure out how to do things and recycle and to make things uh, conscious of the environment that we're in. So yeah, I agree. I think that there is a balance, and I think that there's usually incentive from the corporations to keep government regulation from happening or take so long to happen that it has no real effect anyway. But I think that's incredibly important to make sure that, again, it is not an extractive thing that is benefiting a short or small amount of people.
Yeah, we should be. I agree with the notion of using AI responsibly, and then also just taking it back to self responsibility and accountability because we know it's happening. Like you would have to choose to be blinded or like ignorant or live underneath a rock to not see the effects that AI is having across so many industries. And to your point, there are tools, organizations like yours that are educating folks who don't understand it, who
Mhm.
find it scary. So, for those of us who want to either support your organization because they love the work you're doing or want to somehow get some type of AI education to upskill their own, job skills, what would you say that they should do and how can they sort of tap in with what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we love to have these conversations. Our organization is called First Street Partnerships because, above all else, it's about what is possible with partnership. That's what I did throughout my career. So, always love having conversations, whether it's with government organizations, foundations, nonprofits, ways we can partner to bring this training to more communities. And so, reaching out to us on our LinkedIn, on our website, that's one. Would love to have that conversation. And then two, on an individual scale, I would say that continuing to learn, continuing to center those human skills, being able to interact with people, being able to be empathetic, being able to understand context, apply that to what you're looking at. That is incredibly important. So learn the tools, learn the different tricks of the trade, but understanding how you can use that to make you better at some of those softer skills as you try different things out. And then the last thing I'll say is for an individual, take on projects, take on things that it's tough to learn, AI or anything just in an abstract way. It really works when you're doing something. So, try, creating a business, try applying it to something, try something creative, try making a short film, all of those things. That's how you stick. That's how the learning sticks. So on an individual level, you take it seriously. So I always say if you want to learn how to bake, don't just learn how to bake, like put yourself in a baking competition because like what the amount you learn in that process is very different when you take it that seriously.
Real quick, ChatGPT or Claude?
I'm Claude all day.
Okay.
I love Claude. I think from the beginning, it was always naturally better at handling language. I think there's a big difference in what we are seeing politically between the organizations. I always have a skeptical eye towards a corporation anyway, but I think that I hope society leans into the Claude way of doing things a little bit more than the ChatGPT way, and we continue to push these organizations to be even more responsible with the way they roll out.
And ethical. Monk, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Not only that, but I enjoyed the conversation, but the work that you're doing to give back, especially to marginalized communities, to Black and Brown communities, to Black workers and Brown people who just don't always have those advantages to or the resources and tools that we need to get ahead. So I really appreciate how you're giving back and partnering. Give your website out one more time.
Yeah, so it's firststreet.co. So the number one, street.co.
So check it out. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.